Hello, this video is the first of two videos about the video games industry and specifically our set text Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. This will be a set text for the Component 1 exam, and within it we're going to cover a few different topics, mainly contexts, industry and audience. This first video will cover historical contexts and economic and political contexts. We'll also look at industry in more depth. So our learning objectives for this video is to look at how the process of production and distribution is affected by technological changes within the video games industry. And secondly, we will look at the impact of digitally convergent media platforms on global production and distribution. As a final thing, we'll also be looking at the regulation in video games. So overall, having a look at the industry as a whole using Assassin's Creed 3 as our case study, as that is the text that we'll be examined on. So just to give a little context really to the product before moving on to anything, Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation is actually part of a hugely successful games franchise developed by the games publishing company Ubisoft and released in October back in 2012 alongside another game, Assassin's Creed 3. This particular version of the game, Liberation, was originally exclusive to a platform called the PS Vita, the PlayStation Vita, but was later, in 2014, released as a modified HD version across a larger range of consoles and platforms, which included the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, and on Microsoft Windows PCs. Basically, it's a sequel to a much larger gaming franchise that has been popular for many years since 2007. To give you a brief bit of background, the games are action-adventure video games. It basically depicts a centuries-old struggle which pits one set of characters known as the Assassins, who were fighting for peace and free will, against another set of characters called the Templars, who believe that peace should only come through control of humanity. And the game became known for using a combination of historical fiction and real-world historical events and figures, and was based on novels, so it has a kind of literary background, but well known for its exciting adventures, its gameplay, which was highly addictive, as well as other appeals that video games often have in terms of challenging different conventions, having a breakthrough in terms of graphics, but really it was the narrative of these games that sold them. Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation obviously offers familiar pleasures to the existing fans in terms of the story of the Assassins versus the Templars, the open world gameplay, and there were new elements to this game that made it unique, that was trying to reach a wider target audience. In particular, beginning to look at representations of strong female protagonists to attempt to reach a broader female audience. Now, obviously, compared to a lot of other media industries, the video games industry is relatively new, but it has seen a massive rapid growth in recent years, from its very, very early forms in the 1970s through to the arrival of games consoles in the 1990s. It now is a colossal industry with profits that rival those of major films, and really is as big as the Hollywood film industry. Sales of consoles are still expanding. Games can be played obviously on a range of different platforms and consoles, which gives the audience diverse gaming experiences, different sensations, and of course the most popular of these include platforms such as the Xbox 360, the PlayStation by Sony, which has been around for many years, and other devices which are handheld, offering again different experiences such as the PlayStation Vita. These also enable the gamers to engage in multiplayer interactivity that broadens the gaming experience and allows people to play socially over the internet. In recent years, the audience profile of gamers has changed, and it no longer is it the case that the gamer is the stereotypical lone male teen in their bedroom playing games on consoles by themselves. The demographic has shifted significantly. Gamers now reach all age groups, particularly as many gamers have grown up playing video games since the 1990s. There are demographics which also include both genders, as well as games strive to target both male and female audiences. As an industry, video games is taken incredibly seriously, as you'd expect. They're accepted as valid media products for study in exactly the same way as we study films, TV, newspapers, advertising, and so on. And this is largely thanks to the fact that games have not only been very popular as an industry, but also become increasingly complex. Games can be studied for their genre, as they can be they have recognizable conventions. Some games challenge those. Many games meet those conventions. In addition to that, gaming has incorporated narrative as it's become more complex. And so now games are often played just as much for the characters, scenarios, narrative twists and turns that they take, as they are for the experience of graphics, playability, and simply the act of trying to beat the game and win. As the video games industry grows, the games themselves obviously become more culturally and financially significant across the whole world. But in particular, there are three major territories for gaming: Japan, Europe, and of course the United States of America. The release of new gaming technologies or new games or games from existing franchises can become major economic events. So it's always useful to explore the way that games and the technology is marketed. And we can use Assassin's Creed 3 as a case study for this. There is a plethora of trailers, posters, and other online advertising when Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation came out. And of course, part of it was to launch the PS Vita, which was a new platform at the time and actually considered part of the 8th generation of gaming technology. So as you can tell, there is a significance to the way that the industry has grown. As I said, the original concept was to launch Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation originally on the Vita alone, which was kind of a handheld technology that was released to compete with the popular Nintendo 3DS. Whilst it did well in that, in a further marketing strategy, it was decided by Ubisoft to release the game as in 2014 as a modified high-definition version that could be played on a larger range of consoles and platforms. And these included the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, and this ensured that there would be a broader audience reach, more people could play the game, and of course that in turn would result in greater economic success. So as we consider the processes of production and distribution circulation, we need to look at a few factors about the game's release and how it was created. It was released, as we said before, on the Sony's handheld device, the PlayStation Vita, which was there to really rival the Nintendo 3DS, which was a hugely popular platform. To doubly make sure that the game would do well, Ubisoft decided to release the game alongside their PlayStation 3 game, Assassin's Creed 3, kind of flooding the market in one go, a simultaneous release that really would have maximum impact on those three major markets for console and video games that we mentioned before: Japan, America, and Europe. In terms of its production, the game was a multinational development, and that's really typical of game production in larger studios, and Ubisoft is definitely one of those larger studios, and it paid off. It was one of the best sales of the series to date. It was the biggest launch in Ubisoft's history and the third biggest launch of any game in the UK in 2012, behind the popular Call of Duty Black Ops 2 and FIFA 13. Therefore, it was totally a successful marketing ploy to release Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation alongside the more regular Assassin's Creed 3 to benefit from its success and to have a maximum impact in those three markets. To give you a bit more background into the game and a clue to some of its appeals and successes, the game really was different for the fact that it casts the player or the gamer as a character called Aveline, who is a young woman living in New Orleans in the southern states of the United States of America before and during the American Revolution, and as such it closely linked to the Assassin's Creed 3 game. As part of the marketing and distribution, obviously a trailer for the game was released, and continued marketing includes game-playing videos on YouTube, introducing newcomers to the game and suggesting different playing techniques, so there were lots of ins for potential players. Yet another marketing strategy was to enable gamers to download additional content. For example, the tomahawk belonging to Connor, a unique alligator hunter hat, and additional memory, enabling the gamer to relive Aveline's adventure in New York from Connor's point of view. So really broadening the gamer's experience, making it allowing the gamer to personalize and make it as unique as possible to them. However, we also have to consider not just the marketing and distribution of the game, but how this is impacted upon by the technology of the time. So really the PS Vita, as aforementioned, was there to rival other handheld systems from rival companies such as Nintendo. But on the whole, it was attempting to tap into obviously a more mobile gaming genre, which had become more and more successful. It was designed with many features associated with smartphones, such as touchscreen, using Wi-Fi, 3G and Bluetooth capability. Okay, and so the game itself was part of a well-known franchise, and that might be seen as an attempt to bring high gaming production values to the burgeoning new mobile gaming arena, sort of a crossover of mobile gaming and high production values in regular gaming. It's significant that the game was originally exclusive to the PS Vita, but was later released in its HD version in 2014 across the different platforms, to show that they obviously had faith in its potential as a game that could be played on the more popular, more traditional Xbox 360, PS3 and PC versions. In terms of distribution, these versions of the game could be purchased over the internet using outlets such as Steam, PlayStation Network or the Xbox Live Arcade. Being a handheld device and one that emulates the gaming experience of playing on a mobile phone, for example, opens up new issues and raises questions of convergence, because of course you're merging two different separate media types in one. We should really look at the appeals of this and the significance of it, really, particularly the fact that the Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation handheld game could be linked to the full PS3 console version of the game. For example, owning both versions would unlock additional game content. And this use of convergence is relevant in terms of promotion, marketing, and of course circulation, getting the game out there to as many people as possible. In addition to that, the internet and Wi-Fi functionality of the PS Vita would allow users and gamers opportunities to download additional content, such as weapons, characters, and different skins or outfits for the character. And it also affords users the chance to engage in multiplayer versions of the game. And these features promote gamer engagement and identification with the game. Really, this convergence opens up the possibilities of a different, unique gaming experience to those who may already be familiar with the franchise or those who might be totally new to it. One area, an aspect of the video gaming industry that's discussed by gamers and non-gamers, people inside the industry, people outside the industry, and the broader media is that of regulation. And the regulation of video games is pretty much a sensitive issue. There are regular reports regarding the suitability of the content of video games, as well as the easy accessibility to that content by young people. The wider, usually press media, waste no time in apportioning blame for violent behaviour, lack of sociability of young people onto the gaming industry. Certain games, for example, Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty, have caused concern over the content and potential effect to the gamer, to the extent that you might consider some reports and discussions of these games as small moral panics. And this, combined with the research that shows that children much younger than the age restriction are actually playing these games, has caused a major concern with parents, government, and, as I said, the print media. However, the discussion of the actual impact these games have and whether there is a connection or there is a discussion to be had about effects of media on young audiences, we'll save till the second lesson on this. But what we'll discuss now is how these games are actually regulated. In the UK, until 2012, video games had actually been regulated by the British Board of Film Classification, the BBFC. They're now largely regulated by the Video Standards Council, the VSC, which apply a PEGI system, a Pan-European Game Information System. The PEGI system can be discussed in terms of the process, which is age ratings as well as visual descriptors of content, and also it has an attempt to harmonise the protection of children across Europe. And that's the system that's used these days. Really, it's there to provide a rating and additional information about the content of the game. The aim is to help consumers, particularly parents, to decide upon suitability of games. The system is supported by the major console manufacturers, so they're a part of their own regulation, and that includes Sony, Microsoft and Nintendo, as well as by publishers and developers of interactive games throughout Europe. Consumers can contact PEGI if they want to complain about the rating of a game. In 2012, PEGI became the single video games age rating system, under which it was made illegal for a retailer to sell a game with a PEGI age rating of 12, 16 or 18 to someone who was below that age.